These are turbulent times for airline passengers, not necessarily in the air, but on the ground, just trying to get through security. The waits have been brutal. Today, an executive from American Airlines told a congressional panel that 70,000 of their customers missed flights last year because they were stuck in line waiting to clear security. Airport executives told Congress all this chaos was avoidable.
Airports and airlines began raising concerns about security staffing for the summer travel season as early as last summer. By early May this year, as our peak travel season started, we started experiencing a total breakdown.
Those 70,000 missed flights were this year, by the way. The TSA now plans to hire more screeners, but that takes time. Earlier this week, during an interview on Boston Public Radio, Congressman Stephen Lynch explained why it's so hard to keep those workers on the job.
In the time it took us to hire 323 screeners, 5,000 left, 5,000 quit. We're losing 103 screeners per week because of the conditions there. The pay is very low and the work is monotonous.
And the security problems aren't just inside the airport, they're outside too. An investigation by the Associated Press found the perimeters of U.S. airports are being breached, get this, on average, once every 10 days. That means unauthorized people getting into secured areas. Although Logan Airport had no reported incidents, many popular destinations did so. What are travelers supposed to make of all this? I'll tell you that a travel industry survey found that more than 20% of Americans planning to travel this summer are reconsidering either not flying or traveling at all because of the potential for headaches. Joining me tonight is former Homeland Security Administrator Anthony Amore. Anthony, thank you so much for being here. I'm a layperson. Let me tell you how obvious the causes are to me, and you'll tell me if I'm wrong. First, the TSA stuff. Steve Lynch said how horrible it is. Low pay, low morale, a lot of part-timers. Listen to this. In 2014, 444 left, only 373 hired, with 15% more passengers. I mean, you don't need to be a genius to know that's a real problem, right?
It's a huge problem, but it's beyond that, and I think Congressman Lynch should look at something else. And in my estimation, one of the major problems is that TSA is making a mistake by focusing so much effort. All of their operations at the checkpoint are spent on looking for bad items instead of bad people. So every month,
behavioral profiling, that kind of thing.
And such, just more logical approach to who they're screening. I mean, we've all, everyone likes to use this hyperbolic example about, a 90-year-old grandmother coming through, but it's true. We spend so much of an effort on people who pose no risk in order to find a pocket knife or 10,000 items a month that get pushed aside and no one's ever arrested for them. I mean, what is the goal here?
So we should be more like the Israelis who do a lot of this behavioral profiling. Is that what you're saying?
Absolutely. If you're looking for bad objects instead of bad people, you're going to find neither, and you're not providing security.
Well, speaking of neither, that's a perfect segue. I mentioned these breaches every 10 days for the most part. Let's not forget, what was it, January of last year, undercover agents for the Department of Homeland Security snuck 95% of either dangerous weapons or explosives on the plane, 67 out of 70 times. And the accountability for the head of security was he got a $90,000 bonus. I mean, incredible. This is so ass backwards, and no wonder morale is so low. So why did they just not get it?
I don't know. I think that, well, one of the parts, though, is blame has to be levied on Congress as well, because regardless of what TSA tries to do, Congress says no. You mentioned all the part-time employees. That's because Congress didn't want to fund the number of employees that local federal security directors felt they needed in the field. And whenever there's a problem, Congress turns around and points its finger at the people in the field instead of looking at what is our mission, how are we trying to accomplish it.
Let's point our fingers at a couple other places just for a second. Greedy airlines surely are right up there. Well, they were happy to blame other people today. This $25 a bag thing, I mentioned this on the show the other night. Ed Markey and Senator Blumenthal from Connecticut are urging the companies to drop the $25 for the summer because one of two things happens. It is much more complex for a TSA agent to have to check a bag as it goes through typical security.
Absolutely.
And people like me try to sneak all these bags on or carry them on, too big, too cumbersome to avoid the $25.
Absolutely.
So that would help hugely, right?
Absolutely. And one of the things TSA has done remarkably well, especially here in Boston, is integrate checked baggage screening into the operation. People never even think about that, Before TSA, none of those bags were screened. Now all of them are screened, and they're screened well.
Pogo has something here too. We've seen the enemy, and it is us. Steve Lynch said in this congressional hearing the other day, Congressman Lynch, and I'm paraphrasing, we really want it both ways. We want shorter lines, we want to move faster, but at the same time, if there are any security breaches or anything's inappropriate, we're going to yell, or Congress is going to yell because they're not protecting us adequately. So how do we find that happy medium? How do you convince the passenger about what the proper line, I don't mean that as a pun, to straddle is, you know what I mean?
Well, I do, and the first thing, when I was with TSA, I'll tell you that you always knew every passenger wants you to screen everyone else to the fullest.
Sure.
They don't want to be screened themselves. Well, if you're going to screen every passenger that way, the lines are going to be long. TSA needs to look at risk. Let me give you a really quick example. If I'm an FBI agent flying today on official business carrying my weapon, I'm expedited through screening. I show my paperwork, my identification, and I go on the aircraft. If next week I'm flying without my gun and with my wife and 2 children, all of us go through full screening. Where is the sense in that? It makes absolutely no sense.
You mean that FBI agent,
That's
even if he
same
or
FBI
she is
agent.
on, you're saying, is on
If
a
he's
private
traveling
kind
to
of thing.
Disney with his wife and kids, he goes through full screening with
Yeah, but
because
if
he doesn't have his
Anthony,
gun.
you used to work for the TSA as an administrator. All these things are so obvious.
Of
It isn't like you're
course.
introducing complex concepts here. Treat people better, not have as many part-timers, have the airlines drop the $25. Don't submit people to these invasive searches
Right.
when they don't need it. So why aren't they doing it?
There's no stomach in Congress to say we should be looking at this group of people for these sorts of reasons. Instead, they just say blanket screening at the highest level for every single person, whether they're a disabled Korean War vet or they're a 25-year-old person.
But it doesn't even work. It's 95%.
Right.
95% of these banned weapons or mock explosives got through. So this high level of scrutiny has failed to begin with.
Because you're stretching your resources. But remember, with these objects that are getting through, there's no claim that any of them were intended to be used for a terrorist attack. So why are you looking for them?
So should we expect a fix anytime soon? And the implications are not just for passengers. There are studies coming out talking about that 21.8% I mentioned before. The impact on the economy is billions and billions of dollars. If you either stay home or you drive your car rather than taking a plane, I think they said $4.some billion in just a quarter. Obviously, $18–20 billion a year. Is there a fix soon? It seems that even if Congress acted like grown-ups and the airlines acted like grown-ups to staff up to the level that we need it to be at. The union wants 6,000 people. That would take like 6,000 years at this kind of rate.
Right, and throwing more bodies at it is not going to
So
fix
what is the
it.
short-term fix while they're acting, when hopefully they'll act more maturely down the line? What's the short-term fix?
Risk-based approach. Use the things that work. Put more bags through check screening. Use canine when possible. The canine are fantastic. Use the things that work, but focus your limited resources, they'll always be limited, on people that pose a risk, and stop wasting time on known entities who have no intention of harming the aircraft.
From your lips to you-know-whose ears, Anthony Amore. Oh, before you go away, you're also head of security. I can't believe I didn't ask you this question at Gardner.
Shocking.
26 years. Are we any closer to finding anybody?
Every day.
Are we really? Raise your right hand and say that.
Every day.
Is that true?
It is true.
Boy, I hope that's true.
Thank you,
Anthony,
Jim.
let me shake a second
Appreciate
time.
it.
Good to see you, Anthony.
Same here.